You wake up. Nothing bad happened. Actually, everything's fine. But you're pissed off, irritated, ready to snap at anyone. What the hell is going on? Here's what nobody tells you. You're not angry at what happened today. You're angry at what you're demanding should happen. And that demand? It's running 24/7 in the background of your mind, like a radio station you forgot you turned on. Let me show you how to finally turn it off. Look, I'm not here to tell you that anger is bad or that you should never get upset. That's nonsense. I'm here to help you understand the difference between healthy anger, the kind that motivates you to change something genuinely wrong, and the toxic, constant irritation that comes from nowhere and goes nowhere. Here's what you're going to learn. I'm going to show you the exact thinking patterns that create anger out of thin air. Not theories, not psychobabble. The actual sentences running through your head that turn a normal Tuesday into a day you want to punch a wall. Most people think their anger is justified because something actually happened. Someone cut them off in traffic. Their partner forgot something. Their boss made a stupid decision. And yeah, those things happened. But here's the truth that most therapists won't tell you. It's not the event that made you angry. It's what you told yourself the event means. It's the demand you made that reality just violated. I spent 5 decades, 50 years, working with thousands of people who felt exactly like you feel right now. Angry for reasons they couldn't explain. Frustrated with themselves for being frustrated. Stuck in patterns they couldn't break. And here's what I learned. When you change how you think, you change how you feel. Not by pretending to be positive. Not by suppressing emotions. But by catching and challenging the irrational crap your mind feeds you all day long. By the end of this, you'll know exactly how to spot the difference between a preference and a demand. You'll understand why should is the most dangerous word in your vocabulary. And you'll have a practical method to talk yourself down from anger that actually works because it addresses the root cause, not just the symptoms. This isn't about becoming a pushover. It's about saving your energy for things that actually matter instead of burning it on invisible grievances. Let me teach you the ABC model. This is the foundation of everything. A is the activating event, something happens. B is your belief about that event. C is the emotional consequence. Most people think a cause is C. Something happens, you get angry. Simple, right? Wrong. Dead wrong. It's B that causes C. It's your belief about what happened that creates your anger. And this changes everything because you can't always control A. Life happens, but you can absolutely change B. Here's an example. Your friend cancels plans last minute. That's A. Now, if it be you think that's annoying, I was looking forward to this, you feel disappointed at C. Healthy emotion. But if it be you think they should not have done this, they must respect my time, this is awful. Now you're furious at C. Same event. Different belief. Completely different emotion. Most people skip right from A to C. You don't even notice the belief in the middle. Someone cuts you off. You're instantly angry. You think the cutting off caused the anger. But there was a split-second belief. They shouldn't have done that. How dare they? That's what created the anger. The belief is almost always a demand. It's not just I don't like this. It's this must not happen. That's the key difference. Preferences create disappointment. Demands create rage. You can prove this to yourself. Think about something that used to make you furious that doesn't anymore. Maybe you used to rage when you were stuck in traffic. Now you just put on a podcast. What changed? Not the traffic. Your belief about the traffic. You stop demanding it be different. The belief happens so fast you think it's automatic. This is why people say they made me angry. No, nobody made you anything. You interpreted their action through a demanding belief system, and that made you angry. Let me give you another example. 2 people get rejected for the same job. One person thinks, well, that sucks, I really wanted that position. Guess I'll keep looking. They feel disappointed, maybe frustrated, but they move on. The other person thinks, I should have gotten that job. They must have made a mistake. This is terrible. I can't believe this happened to me. They're devastated. They're furious. They ruminate for weeks. Same rejection. Completely different emotional outcome. Why? The beliefs. One person preferred to get the job, but accepted they didn't. The other demanded they get it and couldn't accept reality. Your anger doesn't come from what happens to you. It comes from what you demand about what happens to you. And once you see this, once you really get this, everything changes. Because you can't always control the activating events in your life, but you can always work on changing your beliefs. Now, you might be thinking, okay, but some things should be different. Some things really are wrong. And you're absolutely right. But there's a massive difference between recognizing something is wrong and demanding it be different. Let me show you what I mean. I call it masturbation, and yes, I know how that sounds. But it's one of the most harmful things you do to yourself. Masturbation is when you take your preferences, things you want or don't want, and turn them into absolute musts, shoulds, and oughts. People must treat me fairly. Life should be easier. I absolutely have to succeed at this. They ought to appreciate me. These words must, should, ought, have to, they're poison. And you probably use them 100 times a day without realizing it. Here's why they destroy you. Their demands on reality. And reality doesn't give a damn about your demands. Reality just is. When you demand to be different, and it's not, you create your own suffering. Shoulds create anger. Preferences create disappointment. Say your partner forgets your birthday. You can think, I really wanted them to remember, this is disappointing. That's healthy. Or you can think, they should have remembered, they must care more. Now you're not just disappointed, you're enraged and feeling unloved. Same event. You should make it catastrophic. You're making demands on things you can't control. You can't control other people. You can't control randomness. You can't control the past. But you're sitting there demanding these things be different. That's like standing in the rain, demanding it be sunny. The rain doesn't care. You just get wet and angry. Shoulds feel righteous. That's the trap. When you think they should treat me better, it feels justified. You feel right. And that feeling of rightness tricks you into thinking the demand is valid. But rightness doesn't equal effectiveness. You can be right and miserable, or you can be flexible in content. Replace must with preferences. Instead of I must succeed, try I'd really prefer to succeed, and I'll work hard for it. But if I don't, it's disappointing, not the end of the world. Feel the difference? One creates panic. The other creates motivation. I worked with a woman once who was absolutely furious that her adult children didn't call her more often. She'd say, they should call me. I'm their mother. They must show respect. And every week that went by without a call, she'd get angrier and angrier. She'd call them when they finally did reach out, and she'd be cold, resentful, which made them want to call less. See the cycle? I asked her, where is it written that adult children must call their parents weekly? Show me that law. She couldn't, of course. So I said, you prefer they call more. I get that, but they don't have to. They're adults making their own choices. When you demand they call, you make yourself miserable and push them away. When you prefer they call, but accept they might not, you can enjoy the calls you do get without the constant resentment. It took her months, but she changed that belief. Stopped shooting all over her kids. And you know what happened? She stopped being angry all the time. And ironically, they started calling more because she wasn't guilt-tripping them every time they did. That's the power of dropping your musts. You stop creating your own suffering over things you can't control. All right, so you're starting to see how your demands create anger. But there's another layer to this. Because it's not just that you demand things be different, you also tell yourself that when they're not different, it's awful. And that's where things get really destructive. Awfulizing is when you take something bad and blow it up into something catastrophic. Something happens that's inconvenient, disappointing, or frustrating, and you tell yourself it's awful, terrible, horrible, the worst thing ever. Your phone dies. Awful. Traffic is slow. Terrible. Someone disagrees with you. Horrible. And here's the thing. When you label something as awful, your brain believes you. It activates your stress response like there's a genuine threat. Your body can't tell the difference between my phone died and I'm being chased by a bear when you're telling yourself both are awful. Awful means as bad as it could possibly be. When you say something is awful, you're saying it's 100% bad. Nothing could be worse. But is your phone dying really as bad as it could be? Is traffic really the worst possible thing? No. It's inconvenient. Maybe 10% bad. But you're treating it like it's 100% bad, and that's why you feel so angry. You're rating badness on feelings, not facts. You feel like it's awful, so you conclude it is awful. But your feelings aren't facts. Your feelings are the result of your thoughts. So when you think this is awful, you feel awful, which confirms to you that it really is awful. It's a vicious cycle. Nothing is awful unless it prevents you from ever being happy again. Bad things happen. Genuinely bad things. Painful, difficult, unfair things. But awful? Awful means there's no way forward. No possibility of happiness. No redemption. Very few things are actually awful. Most things are just bad. And you can handle bad. Scale your language. Scale your emotion. Try this. Instead of "this is awful," say "this is inconvenient" or "this is frustrating but manageable." Watch how your anger drops. The words you choose shape the emotion you feel. I had a client who called every setback the worst thing ever. Missed a deadline? Worst thing ever. Got criticism at work? Worst thing ever. Friend canceled dinner? Worst thing ever. I asked him, "Have you experienced actual tragedy? Loss of a loved one? Serious illness?" He had. His father had died when he was young. So I said, "Was that the worst thing ever?" He said yes. I said, "Okay, so on a scale of 1 to 100, where 1 is totally fine and 100 is your father's death, where does missing a deadline fall?" He thought about it. "Maybe a 15, he said. "Exactly. 15 is bad. 15 is frustrating. But 15 is not 100. When you call 15 a 100, you feel like you're experiencing tragedy all day long. No wonder you're constantly angry." He started using that scale. Every time something happened, he'd rate it. Almost nothing was above a 30. And just that simple reframe, that honest assessment of how bad things actually were, dropped his anger by half. You can do the same thing. Rate the badness honestly. Stop catastrophizing. Stop awfulizing. Things can be bad without being awful. And when you acknowledge that, you give yourself room to cope instead of collapsing into rage. So you're demanding things be different, and when they're not, you're telling yourself it's catastrophic. But there's one more layer that keeps you stuck in anger. And this one's sneaky because it feels like you're just being honest about your limitations. I can't stand Titus. It's when you tell yourself you can't tolerate something that you're literally tolerating right now. I can't stand this job. Yes, you can, you're standing it. I can't deal with this person. You're dealing with them. I can't take this anymore. And yet, you're taking it. This is low frustration tolerance in action. You can stand it. You just don't want to. And there's a massive difference. When you tell yourself you can't stand something, you give yourself permission to escape, avoid, or rage against it. But when you acknowledge that you can stand it, you just find it difficult, you open up the possibility of actually dealing with it. You've stood harder things before. Think about the hardest thing you've been through. A breakup, a loss, a failure. You stood it. You're here. So when you say you can't stand your annoying coworker or the slow internet, you're lying to yourself. You can stand it. You just don't like it. Can't stand it versus don't want to. Say to yourself, "I don't want to deal with this, but I can." Feel the difference? One makes you a victim. The other makes you capable. You're still frustrated, but you're not helpless. Low frustration tolerance creates avoidance. When you believe you can't stand something, you avoid it. You procrastinate. You quit. You lash out. All to escape the thing you've convinced yourself is unbearable. But it's not unbearable. It's just uncomfortable. Discomfort is not danger. Your brain treats "I can't stand this" like it's a threat to your survival. But being uncomfortable is not the same as being in danger. You can be uncomfortable and completely safe. I had a client who couldn't stand any criticism. Any feedback at work, even constructive, and he'd spiral. He'd get angry, defensive, sometimes quit jobs over it. He genuinely believed he couldn't tolerate criticism. So I asked him, "What happens when someone criticizes you?" He said, "I feel terrible, embarrassed, like I'm worthless." I said, "And do you survive that feeling?" He paused. "Yeah, I guess so." I said, "So you can stand it. You just really don't like it." We worked on separating discomfort from danger. Criticism feels bad, but it's not actually harming you. You can feel embarrassed and survive. You can feel uncomfortable and be okay. Once he got that, once he stopped telling himself he couldn't stand criticism, he stopped avoiding feedback. He actually started improving at work because he could finally hear what people were telling him. That's what happens when you admit you can stand things. You stop running. You stop raging. You start dealing. Okay, so now you understand the thinking patterns that create your anger. But knowing the problem isn't enough. You need to know what to do when you catch yourself demanding, awfulizing, and saying you can't stand things. Let me give you the practical method I've used with thousands of people. Disputing is how you fight back against your irrational beliefs. You've been letting these thoughts run wild your whole life. Now you're going to start questioning them like a lawyer cross-examining a hostile witness. When you catch yourself in a must, should, awful, or can't stand it thought, you immediately ask 3 questions. Where's the evidence? Where is it written that people must treat me fairly? Show me the law of the universe that says this. There isn't one. People often don't treat each other fairly. That's reality. Demanding otherwise doesn't change it. Is this logical? Does it logically follow that because I want something, I must have it? No. Wanting something doesn't create an obligation for the universe to deliver it. That's magical thinking. Is this helping me? Is believing this making my life better or worse? Is demanding fairness reducing my anger or increasing it? Is calling this situation awful helping me solve it or paralyzing me? Dispute out loud or on paper. Don't just think about it. Actually talk to yourself. Out loud if you can, or write it down. Why must my partner remember my birthday? Where's the evidence for that must? Hearing yourself say it reveals how irrational it is. Dispute forcefully, not gently. Don't baby yourself. Really challenge the belief. That's bullshit, Albert. There's no rule that says people must appreciate you. You'd like appreciation, but you don't need it. You can be happy without it. Be vigorous. Replace with a rational alternative. After you dispute, give yourself a better thought. Instead of they should have called me back, try would have preferred they called back. And it's disappointing they didn't, but people don't always do what I prefer, and I can handle that. Practice this daily, not just when you're angry. Don't wait for a crisis. Practice disputing when you're calm. Catch small irrationalities throughout the day. The coffee shop should be faster. Stop. Dispute. Why should they? I prefer faster service, but there's no cosmic law guaranteeing it. I had a client with terrible road rage. Every commute was a nightmare. People cut him off, drove too slow, didn't use turn signals, and he'd arrive at work furious every single day. We practiced disputing. When someone cuts you off, what's your thought? They shouldn't have done that. They're a terrible driver. This is awful. Okay, where's the evidence they shouldn't have? Well, they just did, so clearly they should have in the sense that they did. But they're bad drivers. Maybe. Does that mean they must drive well? No, bad drivers exist. Is it awful? On a scale of 1 to 100? Maybe a 5. Can you stand it? Yes, you stand it every day. He practiced this disputing every single drive. Out loud in his car. It felt ridiculous at first. But after a few weeks, something shifted. He'd notice himself getting angry, catch the irrational belief, dispute it before the rage took over. His commute went from unbearable to just boring. Same traffic, different beliefs, different emotion. You can do this with anything. Dispute your way out of anger. Challenge every must, every should, every awful, every can't stand it. Replace them with preferences, accurate assessments, and acknowledgments of your capability. It works if you actually do it. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. Albert, this sounds like I'm just giving up. Like I'm accepting things that are genuinely wrong. And I want to address that head on, because this is where most people get confused. Here's what I'm not saying. I'm not saying you should never be angry. I'm not saying you should accept injustice or become a doormat. That's not what this is about. There's a difference between rational anger and irrational rage. Rational anger says, this situation is bad, I don't like it, and I'm going to work to change it. Irrational rage says, this situation must not exist, it's awful, I can't stand it, and I'm going to lose my mind over it. One motivates you, the other paralyzes you. Rational anger is proportional. If someone genuinely wrongs you, they steal from you, betray you, harm you, anger is appropriate. But it should match the offense. Getting as angry about someone being late as you'd be about them stealing from you, that's irrational. Rational anger focuses on solutions. When you're rationally angry, you think this is wrong. What can I do about it? When you're irrationally enraged, you just stew. You rant. You ruminate. You don't solve anything. Your anger becomes the problem. You can want change without demanding it. You can absolutely work for justice, fairness, better treatment, while accepting that the world doesn't owe you these things. You fight for them because they don't automatically exist, not because they must exist. Preferences allow flexibility. Demands create brittleness. When you prefer things be better, you can adapt when they're not. When you demand they be better, you shatter every time reality disappoints you. Which person do you want to be? I fought for decades to get rational emotive behavior therapy accepted in the psychological community. Decades. And I faced massive resistance. The psychoanalysts hated it. The behaviorists dismissed it. I could have raged. I could have said, they must accept this. They should see how valuable it is. This is awful that they're rejecting it. And I'd have burned out in 5 years. Instead, I thought, I'd strongly prefer they accept this. It's frustrating that they don't. But they don't have to. I'll keep teaching, keep writing, keep demonstrating results. And eventually, some will come around. That preference kept me going for 50 years. The demand would have destroyed me. That's the power of rational versus irrational thinking. You can still fight for what matters. You just don't destroy yourself in the process. All right, we've covered a lot. Let me bring this all together and show you exactly what to do starting today. You feel angry even when nothing is wrong because you're making demands on reality. You're telling yourself that things must be a certain way, that when they're not, it's awful, and that you can't stand it when life doesn't comply. But reality doesn't care about your musts. It just is. The solution isn't to suppress your anger or pretend everything's fine. The solution is to change your beliefs that be in the ABC model. Challenge your demands. Question your awfulizing. Dispute your can't stand it's. Starting today, catch yourself using must, should, ought, and have to. When you do, stop and ask, where's the evidence? Is this logical? Is this helping me? Then replace that demand with a preference. I prefer this, but I don't need it. I can handle disappointment. Do this consistently, not perfectly, but consistently, and watch what happens. Your baseline anger will drop. You'll still get frustrated, but you won't rage over nothing. You'll save your energy for things that actually matter. You'll sleep better. You'll enjoy relationships more. You'll stop feeling angry at yourself for being angry. This isn't therapy speak. This is practical philosophy that works if you actually use it. Now here's what to do next. If you found this valuable, I need you to watch my video on why you can't stop overthinking and what your brain is actually doing. Because here's the thing. The same irrational beliefs that create your anger also create your anxiety and rumination. You're probably stuck in thought loops all day, replaying conversations, imagining disasters, worrying about things that haven't happened and probably never will. In that video, I'm going to show you exactly how your mind creates these loops and the specific technique to break them. It's the companion piece to what we just covered. Your anger and your overthinking, they're two sides of the same irrational coin. Click that video right now. Don't wait. The longer you let these patterns run, the deeper they get. Go watch it. I'll see you there.